My name is Jana. I'm a resilience coach, and I'm just really honored to be here today. So, thank you, Patrick, for connecting me with this group. Patrick and I overlapped a number of years ago, and it was lovely working with him. So, let's talk about resilience. Resilience is a great concept. Everybody wants to be resilient, but what is it exactly? So, the definition of resilience is the ability to maintain flexibility in our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in the face of adversity, to bounce back after adverse life circumstances. So, a one-word way to describe it would be buoyancy. And I love that word because it reminds me of pushing a ball down under the water in the swimming pool. And as soon as you let go, it bounces right back up to the surface. So, with that in mind, let's use this ball as an illustration. Life puts pressures on us. We have bills to pay, or demands, or a conflict. We might have symptoms like fatigue, anxiety. And so each little stressor adds up. And then we feel kind of compressed like this ball. And if there's no relief or no path forward, we'll just stay compressed like this. So, can you relate to that? Sometimes the pressures of life can build and it feels like there's no opportunity to bounce back. You may have time to relax or a day off or a holiday, but you're still carrying around those compressed feelings and you never quite feel like you're full of buoyancy. So, no amount of rest or meditation or any newfangled treatments can profoundly shift that for us at times, and we might feel stuck. So, how do you let things roll off your back? We can't avoid having those things press in on us, but we can learn ways to bounce back. And that's kind of my specialty. I work with people to help them find ways to become more resilient, which in practical terms means two main things. Resilient people aren't as compressed by stress in the first place. And then when stress comes along, they're able to return to feeling better more quickly and easily. So I want to pause here for a second and speak to the idea of a cure-all or a fix-it. How many of you have done some kind of program, whether brain rewiring or medical, that was said that would fix you or cure you completely? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah. And I think that's kind of unfortunate. Sometimes they will say if you work hard enough and you do all the right things, you'll be cured. But this adds undue burden on the backs of people who are already under a lot of pressure. It's kind of not fair. I think we all have the ability to move in a positive direction and make changes that lead to a better quality of life. But I don't think that there's a formula for a cure. And if something you've tried hasn't worked for you, it's not your fault. It's if you've experienced that in the past, I see you. And I want to say I'm sorry that you've been told that narrative. So, how can we move toward our own best personal outcome and build more resilience? So, my favorite illustration of how we can move toward resilience is to work on balancing our nervous system. And this diagram is from the NeuroFit app. It's just one of the services that I work with. And it shows the three biggest nervous system states. So we have the yellow at the top, that's balanced. And then we have over in the pink, sympathetic, which we would typically identify as fight or flight. That might be more familiar. And then the blue right here, this is what we might think of as freeze or dorsal vagal. But I like this diagram because it also shows the in-between states. So in between balance at the top and the high energy sympathetic, we have play in the orange. And in between balance and freeze, we have stillness. And then also in between these two down here, we have overwhelm, which you may have heard of as the fawn response. So here's the good news. We need all of these states. There are no bad states and good states. You aren't failing if you find yourself in this bottom half of the ring. Just like you can't force yourself to sleep, you can't force a certain nervous system state. And you actually don't get a gold star if you make it through the day and stay in the top half of the ring the whole time, really, because that's not natural and it's also not sustainable. In my work with clients, I've often found that those with chronic fatigue find themselves in a dorsal vagal state quite a bit of the time. And they learn to carefully not expend too much energy in a day because that's going to deplete them. And then often when they do expend energy, it takes them into the sympathetic fight or flight, and then that burns them out really quickly, and then they bounce back into freeze. So we want our energy expenditure to come more from the upper half of the ring so that it feels good and it doesn't deplete us. So let's talk just a little bit about our nervous system and how to see all 6 of these states as incredible gifts. When we lack resilience, we have a really narrow window of tolerance. It doesn't take much to push us from the balanced states into the stress of fight or flight or freeze. So when we're in a dysregulated state all the time, we're not going to have a great experience. Not only is that where often symptoms show up, it just doesn't feel good. So while we need all of the states, just like a good dessert, once in a while, the dysregulated states are really helpful and serve us well, but anything in too big of a quantity will fail to be good after a while. So if we support ourselves and engage intentionally in resilience building over time, we will expand our window of tolerance and have more built-in buffer before we move into a stress response. We will also have more flexibility between the states so we can bounce back more easily. So learning to spend more time in play and balance and stillness is something we can cultivate, but we can't force it. And we don't want to just get really good at faking it either. So let's talk a little bit about why we need the stress states. I mean, besides the obvious of keeping you safe from danger, let me give you an example. If somebody is regularly putting you down and speaking to you disrespectfully, you should experience some amount of dysregulation. This is how the brain sends you the message that your situation needs attention, and it encourages you to make a decision about what to do. So while we don't want an overreactive nervous system that sees every conversation as a threat, we don't want to numb either, because that leaves us vulnerable to mistreatment. We can have a balance when we celebrate all of our responses and see them each as nuggets of information, and then we can learn to calibrate our stress response so it's not overly sensitive. One of the things that impacts our window of tolerance is allostatic load. So the greater that our load is, the smaller our window of tolerance will be. I think it's really important to be honest that there are things that add to our load that we can't control. And I think this is why it's not fair to blame you if you aren't recovering or getting to the place that you want to with your health. So if, for example, you're in a season of parenting, that's going to add to the load. If you have certain health conditions, that will add as well. If you have difficult family relationships, that's a big one. And on a personal note, I have ADHD, which means I was born with a brain that has a propensity toward a smaller window of tolerance. And I also have hypermobile EDS, which adds another layer to my allostatic load. However, no matter what factors stack up for us, we can do some pretty significant things to help ourselves discharge stress and reduce our load so that we can bring our baseline back down and increase our resilience. So one thing that's important to note is we can learn all about resilience and still not have it. We can be an expert on brain science and polyvagal theory and the nervous system, and still live our lives in a way where we feel stuck and largely dysregulated. Building resilience is experiential. It's not about how many articles we've read or how many podcasts we've consumed. We build resilience by learning what it feels like to be safe and balanced in our nervous system, and by demonstrating to our bodies we're safe no matter what state we're in. It includes connecting to our internal state and just accepting what's there. This process is even more effective when we do it with other people, because that helps to involve our social engagement system that reinforces a sense of safety. So without further delay, I'd like to just walk you through an experience together today. So regulation can be summarized as being connected to yourself and to the present moment. Oftentimes, we can be encouraged not to focus too much on uncomfortable sensations in our bodies, and we may have learned to unconsciously stuff our negative emotions. This can disconnect us from ourselves and numb our intuition, and it can leave us kind of unaware of what we need. The problem comes not from the noticing, it's when Fear arises when we notice, or there are stories that we attach to what we observe. So if we can observe non-judgmentally rather than ignore, this is the ideal. When we stay connected to ourselves, we're more likely to notice our limits, honor our no, and tap into what's best. So the exercise, and I say exercise, I probably shouldn't even use that word with this group. They're just little things that we're going to do. I'm not talking about physical exercise. The exercises we're going to do together help us move toward connection with ourselves, and as a result, they strengthen our resilience. So just take a moment now and place a hand over your heart, or you can put a hand on your belly and close your eyes for a couple of moments. We're just going to take some time now to check in and just notice. You can notice emotions, you can notice physical. We're just going to observe and accept what's there. And when I do this, I like to think of imagining that a really good friend might ask, "How are you?" And we're not going to give the memorized answer of "I'm fine," but "How are you really?" This is somebody who really cares. So we want to be that caring and kind friend to ourselves. Okay, go ahead and open your eyes, and we're going to move into using a few tools. So before we do that, if you feel overactivated at any time, feel free to pause. You can go back to the hand over your heart with your eyes closed, or you can modify or slow down what we're doing. But the goal here is to stay within your window of tolerance. Now, you might feel like it's a little unnatural, and that's absolutely okay because we do want to stretch ourselves a little bit, but we also don't want to force anything. So listen to yourself. The first tool that we're going to use together is called body tapping. Tapping activates touch receptors that send calming signals to the brain, and you can follow along if you'd like. This improves our mind-body connection by bringing attention to physical sensations that are neutral. It's kind of like if a nervous system feels pressured or stressed, this sends it alternative information that really doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to give it another frame of reference. You can tap with fists or open palms, and you can tap harder or softer based on what feels good to you. And then you can move to your torso, and you can either tap at the same time or alternate. I find alternating to be quite grounding personally. And I'm sharing with you what is my absolute favorite somatic exercise. We're all different. So some things we're going to like more than others. And it's nice to be able to just experiment and figure out, what does your body and your nervous system like? And then you could move down and tap your legs as well. Back. The nice thing about this is this can be done seated. This can be done laying down. It's really flexible. And while you do this, don't forget to breathe. We don't want to hold our breath. Okay, good. And now go ahead and come back into stillness and just check in with yourself and see if you noticed any little micro shifts. Sometimes that can look like tummy gurgling, a yawn, eyes watering, and sometimes our nervous system doesn't respond at all, and that's totally okay. Okay, you can go ahead and open your eyes. The next activity we're going to do together is just a shifting of our weight. And we're going to shift our weight from side to side, and that will help increase our bodily awareness and again, connect our nervous system to safety. So this can be done seated, standing, or lying down. If you're standing, you're going to shift your weight from one foot to the other. If you're seated, you have two options. You can either alternate pressing weight into your the tops of your thighs with one hand and the other, or you can place hands under your sit bones and shift the weight from one hand to the other. So I'll just demonstrate this standing, but feel free to do this in whatever way works for you. So this exercise works by stimulating proprioceptors in your muscles and joints. Those are sensory receptors that respond to your position and movement. So the brain just receives and processes all this information, enhances your body awareness and your balance. We'll do this for another minute together. Again, you can go at whatever pace. You can go nice and slow if you want to. And just take some deep breaths. Okay, good. And then you can come to stillness again and just check in and notice. And if your nervous system has been in freeze, this actually might wake it up. So you might feel just a tiny bit activated by this, and that's actually a good sign. Or if you were feeling a little bit over activated, this might feel calming and grounding. So it just depends on where you're at. And Sue asks, how do you do this when lying down? So really, if you were wanting to do the weight shift lying down, you could just lean your body from side to side. So you could basically press a shoulder or a foot a little more deeply into the surface you're lying on and just rotate that from side to side. Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. Okay, let's move into the last activity we're going to do, which is called rectangle breathing. This is a variation on box breathing, which you've probably heard of before. So what we'll do is we'll draw a rectangle in the air. So on the inhale, this is the short side, and then you'll pause and just hold that breath at the top of the breath while you tap the corner of the rectangle. Then you'll exhale the long side of the rectangle. And that gives the exhale a greater length than the inhale, which can help to balance the nervous system. Then we'll pause at the corner and hold for just a second, and then go back to inhale, pause, and exhale, pause. So I'll lead us through a couple rounds of this, but breathe at your own pace. If your body wants to breathe at a different pace, you don't have to force it into the rate that I'm leading. So let's go ahead and do it together. Inhale, hold, and exhale. And then pause. And again. Pause, exhale, and pause. Let's do another round. Inhale, pause, exhale, and pause. Inhale, pause, and exhale. Pause. Let's do one more rectangle. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause, inhale, pause, and exhale. Good. And then let's just go back to that non-judgmental observation. Okay, good. And you can open your eyes. So the rectangle breathing is good to do if you're in that sympathetic fight or flight activation. If you're more in freeze, the box breathing might be a little bit more appropriate because it can wake your system back up out of freeze. But this one's good for the calming and bringing our system into balance. So the final thing I want to do before I open it up to Q&A is I just want to lead you through a relaxing guided visualization. So you can sit or lie down, you can close your eyes if you wish. I'll give you just a moment to get settled and take some deep breaths, and then I'll begin to guide us through this. All right, imagine now that you are staying in a cozy cabin out in the countryside. The cabin is in a private location away from street lights and city lights. It's your own quiet getaway. It's a warm summer evening, so you settle into a comfortable chair out on the deck. The temperature of the air feels amazing against your skin. And you see yourself in your mind leaning back and reclining your patio chair and inhaling a delicious breath of fresh mountain air. Clear, refreshing, comfortable air gently moves in and out of your lungs as you breathe effortlessly. Breathe in and out now, enjoying each wonderful breath. And notice the stillness around you. Peace is palpable. Gaze up at the sky now, the clear velvet midnight blue sky. It's filled with countless stars. As your eyes adjust to the darkness, notice how the stars seem to multiply as the fainter ones come into view. The Milky Way curls across the sky, and you can identify a few constellations. Those same familiar constellations fill the sky night after night, whether you can see them or they are obscured by lights or clouds. Their reliability and unchanging nature serve as a constant in a changing landscape. Some of the stars seem to wink at you as they twinkle in the night sky. The visibility is so incredible tonight that the sky seems to have dimension. Rather than appearing as a flat dome with stars, there's a sense of depth. Some of the stars seem closer than others, and this makes the sky seem so vast and expansive. You give yourself permission to take up more space, to expand your heart, to absorb the beauty and grandeur all around you. As you relax and bask in a sense of awe, a shooting star arcs across the sky, leaving a bright and blazing trail that fades away into the night. Just a few moments later, another beautiful light glides across the sky and fades away. A sense of wonder spreads across your chest, and you revel in your own private display of nature's beauty. Allow that awe and wonder to grow within you as you relax into the stillness. Awe gives way to gratitude for this moment, to delight and revel in the beauty above you and all around you. Take a breath in now, and if you wish, place your hand over your heart as you let the awe and gratitude wash over you. And take some time now to take a few more deep breaths in and out. Breathing in and out. Well done. So with your eyes still closed, you can check in once again and see if you've noticed any shifts. You might feel lighter or calmer or more connected to yourself. Or as I mentioned before, you might have noticed that your eyes watered, your tummy gurgled, that you yawned. And all of these are indicators of the nervous system moving into balance. And you might even feel a little activated, like I mentioned. That's okay too. That's just an indicator of moving out of freeze. So if that's where you're at today, you might want to do a few more reps of some breathing and then trust that your system will support you as you move through the rest of your day. The most important thing is to accept where you are at. And as I mentioned before, if you didn't feel anything, that's okay too. That doesn't mean you're broken. Sometimes it takes repetition to demonstrate to the nervous system that it's safe to feel and be connected to ourselves. So just notice and celebrate your participation today. So go ahead and open your eyes. And thanks for being willing to participate. So my website is janamsmith.com. I have a couple of free audio and video recordings. I do individual coaching. Right now, I'm offering some 30-minute help you regulate classes that are a little bit like what I walked you through today. Those pretty soon, those are going to go into an on-demand library, so we don't have to worry about time zones. So that's going to switch soon. And then I'm also doing an 8-week course where we dive more into those different nervous system states and help you learn how to respond, how to notice, how to know where you're at, and then what to do productively with that. And then, of course, we've talked a bit about the app. So those are basically, that's what I offer. And I love to support people wherever they're at.